Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us from Dave's parents, Dave and Kathy, his sister Tara, and me. I know this eulogy is probably a little unconventional, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but it's my tribute to Dave and his life and our relationship, and I hope everybody can appreciate it. Dave was born on January 8th, 1970, which just so happens to be Elvis Presley's birthday. Dave's mom was a huge Elvis fan, so of course this was a sign from above. He was joined a year later by his sister Tara, and then by another sister, Crystal. As a kid, Dave played baseball, coached by his dad, played football. He was a great golfer. When Dave was born, they lived on South Street. His childhood friends were Jerry Johnson and Mike Dietz. They caused a lot of trouble in the neighborhood and hung out at the playground by Potsy's. Poor Tara got picked on a lot for tagging along with her big brother, but that didn't stop her. Years later, they moved to North Road. Friends from the neighborhood included Miles Hamilton, Dave Graff, and many others. Tara still tried to tag along and was constantly picked on. They built forts in the snow, played manhunt, and caused more trouble. Dave loved WWF wrestling. Poor Tara took the brunt of this and got beaten up and pinned during much of this period. Years later, for all the teasing he did with his sister Tara, he sure didn't mind all the girlfriends she brought home. That's all I'm going to say about that. He loved visiting his Nana and Pappy. Sundays were spent having dinner and hanging out. All the aunts and uncles were there, and the cousins would hang out and play. Dave loved being with his Pappy. He shared many memories with me about spending time with him in the shed. He also loved his Nana's cooking. Many summers were spent at Seaside Heights, which is where Dave's love for the beach started. One of my favorite stories of Dave telling me that his mom told him Elvis was his dad. He used to tell everyone that he was even born on his birthday, so it had to be true. Oh, alas, we had Kathy, seriously, what were you thinking? Another story for the books was the time that his family was visited by a UFO. Dave always said that the mothership came down and filled the house with red light. His mother confirmed the tale along with his sister Tara, who said she hid under the dining room table. Dave always said this was a sign that God was an alien. He would always joke that Mama was coming for him on the mothership. Dave loved his family fiercely, especially his mom. He would joke all the time about her being nuts and used to tell me we were two peas in a pod. This has been proven many times, as all the advice I would try to give him would be met with, "Yes, Mom," or "What'd you do, talk to my mom? She said the same thing." I would always say to him, "Just call me Kathy." When Kathy collapsed and was taken away in an ambulance at his nephew Anthony's wedding, Dave called me at the beach and was beside himself. I only heard him cry a handful of times in the 20 years that we were together, but that was one of them. He was always there to help her if she needed anything. One year for Christmas, he bought us tickets to go see Rod Stewart. He may not have said it, Kathy, but I hope you know how much he adored you, even when you were driving him crazy. He and his dad had a different relationship. Dave Sr. is quiet and doesn't say much. He used to tell me that when he was young, if he was bad, his dad would come home and give him a whack on the ass, and Dave would be trying to run away, and his dad would be just smacking him. He would always laugh about that. According to Tara, they always got the stick. They would golf together, which Dave really enjoyed. When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, Dave even rooted for them, which was a small miracle because Dave always referred to the Eagles as the bird turds. He was so happy for his dad when they won. When Amanda turned 21, they had a party, and Dave decided it would be a good idea to bring some real moonshine from North Carolina. I won't say how he got it, but he did. Well, needless to say, everyone had a hell of a time, and Dave got crazy. His Aunt Joanne decided this would be a good time to get one over on him and actually hogtied him. Oh, I wish we had a video of that day. He would fill Easter eggs with money, hide them in the yard for the kids, which they loved. One year, the chocolate bunny he got for Bentley was almost as big as he was. We took the kids, Anthony, Alyssa, Amanda, and Carly, to Dave and Buster's in Philly. So many adventures. When his niece Alyssa had children of her own, he would always tease them and call them goofy. Bentley especially loved this and got a kick out of Dave during football. Dave was just a big kid to them. Dave would sit on the floor with Bentley and point at Kathy and say, "She's crazy." Bentley would laugh, and he called her crazy many times after that. The day Dave passed, his niece Amanda was scheduled to have her twins. He was so excited. It breaks my heart that he never got to meet them. On our last trip to Pittsburgh, He even went to the shop in the stadium and bought them onesies so they had something official from Heinz Field. Yes, I said Heinz Field. That's what we call it. Thank God he returned quickly to save me from the Pittsburgh Mafia, but that's a story for another day. Dave loved music. He loved to tell the story of his trip to Woodstock with his friend Slinky, among others. He camped in the rain and mud. He got to see many of his favorites. He was so excited to see Blind Melanie was right up front. I heard him say many times he had to endure 4 hours of the band waiting for them to take the stage. Dave's photo album, including a baggie full of mud that he scraped off his body, was proudly displayed in the bar, and he loved pulling it out to show people. Posters from the pictures he took hang in his room and will remain until the day I leave. Although Dave and I were in the same class of '87 in high school, I didn't really know him. I even dated one of his good friends, but Dave and I never hung out. Years later, when we started dating, he told me he was interested but never got the nerve to talk to me. When I asked him why, Dave said with his typical passionate voice, "Really? You moved here from Wisconsin with curly hair, purple eyeshadow, tight jeans, and a huge chip on his shoulder. You didn't want anyone messing with you." We laughed about that for years. Even my dad got a kick out of that one. Dave liked to gamble. I heard many stories of epic poker games with his friends, especially Dave Strauss, rest his soul, and many others. He was constantly buying lottery tickets and did win big a few times. He paid off many vacations with that money. I met Dave through my friend Krista Buchanan, who was living with him at the time at the frat. That's what they called the home they shared on Main Street because of all the wild parties and the craziness. He was smart and witty. I was going through a rough time personally after losing my job of 17 years, among other things. There was something that just drew us together, and right or wrong, we started our journey. Dave was really into music. He loved all genres and a lot of heavier stuff that I did not like, but I tried my best to tolerate, sometimes not very well. We went to see Cake several times in Philadelphia. Believe it or not, Dave took me to see Liz Phair, Ben Folds, and Cheap Trick. He was not happy about it, but we did have a good time. He even took me to see Guar. Many of you probably don't know them, but their music is heavy, and they dress up as demons, slaughter a famous person on stage, and spew blood and other excrements on the audience. I was instructed to wear a white t-shirt for this reason. What a time. I tried to go in the mosh pit, but Dave wasn't allowing that, thank God. We attempted to see Jane's Addiction in Bethlehem, but were rained out. This resulted in Steve and I listening to Dave rant at the top of his lungs the entire way back to the car. I can't divulge all the words he screamed, but one started with a B and the other started with an S. We also went to see Kiss and Def Leppard with his sister Tara and his niece Amanda. At the end of the show, there was confetti flying everywhere. And Amanda and I looked down to see Dave on the ground picking up tons of the paper. When I asked him what the hell he was doing, he said, "I'm gonna save it, we'll make something for the bar." Oh, Amanda and I still laugh about that. We moved to Stockertown in 2005, found the perfect house. It had a room upstairs for Dave, as he always needed his own space. This room affectionately became known as the penthouse. It also had a garage for his bar and a pool. Dave shocked and scrubbed that black pool water for weeks until we could finally swim. He worked so hard to fix up the house so Carly and I would have a nice place to live. He and his friends, Hey Dog, Steve Hayden, Deetsy, Mike Dietz, Charlie Bruce Miller, helped paint, rip up carpets, clean. He always came through for me. The new place in Stockertown was great for the kids too. My daughter Carly would always have her friends over, and of course Dave was always messing with them. Carly's friend Emily was one of his favorites and became his favorite hoe. They would joke around all the time. Another one of Carly's best friends, Shane, would spend a lot of time at the house. When he and Carly went to New York City to see Miley Cyrus, Shane arrived in high-heeled boots, a scarf around his neck, and a purse. I gave him a look and told him he better behave. But he did in his own way, and by the time they left, Shane had Dave laughing and they were toasting with shots of moonshine. He just shook his head, but it was a conversation piece for a long time after. The garage was Dave's favorite place to be. It started out as a bar with one TV and one bar. From day one, all of our friends would come over and watch football, swim, hang out. Dave even joined us on a dance party with my friend Jabs, which earned him a John Travolta poster that hangs in the bar. I called it the Woe Man Cave, which Dave absolutely hated. Dave tore apart an old box spring, which still hangs on the wall. It's a huge memory box. We now have 3 bars, thanks Deetsy and Scott, 2 TVs, 2 refrigerators, and so many tchotchkes. I always said if the walls in that bar could talk, the stories they would tell. I'm sure some of you will get to hear them later. Football, football, football. What can I say? Dave loved football. He lived for it. Every game day, he would start in the morning, getting the fire ready and listen to music. Dave and I traveled to Wisconsin to see the Packers play the Steelers at Lambeau. He crafted a safety helmet with a cheese grater on it and took that thing on the plane. He was so proud of that helmet. Packers fans were asking him to take pictures all day. He was a freaking celebrity. Brett Favre fumbled the ball and Troy Polamalu scored a 77-yard touchdown, which Dave caught on camera. I never heard the end of it. That picture's also hanging in the garage. That was the beginning of the end of that game. What a day. During the beginning of our relationship, the Steelers were on an all-time high, winning 2 Super Bowls. When they played and beat the Seahawks, Dave and Brian Petrisco, BP, stayed up all night decorating the garage. They even made a Lombardi trophy using an entire roll of tinfoil, which he caught hell for. When I came out the next morning, they were still at it, and Dave told me they almost painted the rafters black and gold. He's lucky that didn't happen. When they beat the Cardinals in the final seconds, I can still remember looking over at Steve and Dave and seeing the joy that they were sharing. They didn't win the next time they went, though. The Packers took that one. He made me my own WWF belt with the Green Bay logo. It still hangs in the garage to this day. Dave always said, that wasn't the Super Bowl, that was Fluker Bowl. Yeah. He had so many football euphemisms, and many I can't say here, but just to name a few. First down and bend. It's all cat and mouse. See you later, belt boy. His nickname for Aaron Rodgers. Can he do it? Yes, he can. This one was immortalized on a t-shirt made by Steve's son, Ian. Go back home. A retort to my go, Pack, go. Send Mr. Rogers back to his neighborhood. 7 goes for 7 on the 7th. Here they come. Do it. That's a token touchdown. Relationships go through ups and downs, and there was a time when he moved to North Carolina to work his tire business. He loved living there. Things didn't work out, and he ended up coming back home. Funny how now I think about it, even though we weren't together, we still talked all the time, and he would still come on Sundays for football. Our friendship endured the test of time. When I reached out and told him I wasn't able to afford my home alone, he said he'd come back and help. No questions asked. He moved back in, and from that day forward, we were what we were. Companions, friends, at times at each other's throats, but most of all, family. Many times I thought it wasn't going to work, and I thought he would move out, but we always came back together, and he stayed. I won't say it was perfect or normal, but it was our normal, and we made it work. They've also loved the beach. My dad had a place in Myrtle Beach, and we vacationed there as often as we could. He would search for shells for hours. We have bags and bags of beautiful shells. Most of the time we went alone, but sometimes Steve would join us. Dave loved nothing more than sitting on the beach, eating pineapple soaked in vodka, and drinking a raspberry. It was his favorite place to be. The picture here is from one of our trips. Dave was a workhorse, never stopped. When we found out our dog Bella had cancer and only 4 weeks to live, he dug a 5-foot hole in the backyard in 100-degree weather, so we had somewhere to bury her. When my dad died, we were given 2 weeks to get all the stuff out of the house. He and Dietzy worked like dogs, loaded that U-Haul truck many times to make sure I got everything I wanted. It was during this move that he and my Aunt Mill developed a newfound friendship. They were hauling things down the stairs and out the door. My aunt kept closing the door. Every time we would come down, Dave would scream, "Who the hell keeps closing the damn door?" After about the 3rd time, I told him it was my Aunt Mill, and he yelled, "Stop closing the effing door, we're working here." We laughed like hell, and from that moment on, they were buds. He dug endless flower beds in my garden. When Lisa and Chris King needed him to help out on Chris's parents' house, he and Dietzy again worked tirelessly, filling dumpsters so the house could be sold. They've had an eye for art. Every picture that was hung, every room that was redecorated, every piece placement in the bar was done with total precision. He made sure it was perfect. There's so many beautiful things he made me. A shelf picture frame made from my Grammy's old wooden shutters for Liz and I, shutter shadow boxes for Sarah and Carly, a seahorse in a Green Bay Packers picture made from wine corks, a picture frame from an old stove grate. He made stepping stones with shelves for my mom and his mom. The list is endless. Dave also loved writing little ditties and giving gifts. He would buy silly gifts for his nieces and nephews and their kids. He bought my niece Sarah a poop-shaped radio, which was proudly displayed in her bathroom. This year was a poop game for Alyssa's kids that was a huge hit. He would write little poems and cards, send texts, which also brought a smile. He had his own style, and if you were lucky enough to get one of his cards or gift, it was always a special thing. My family also loved him. When my niece Sarah was born, she was scared to death of his trademark sunglasses and hat. It took years for her to warm up to him, but once she did, they were pals. Every year when we opened the pool, those two would jump in the freezing water. He was always the first one to get a game of pool volleyball going with the kids as well. My mom and my sister would affectionately scream, "Dave!" out the window. Honestly, I think we drove him crazy. After my dad passed away, Dave was my rock. He got my dad's golf clubs and they were his pride and joy. He would always tell me how nice they were and how much better he played because of the set. He loved golfing whenever he could. I'm glad he was able to enjoy them. Dave lived his life the way he wanted to. Whether I or anyone else agreed with it, he forged his own path. He was who he was. I respected him for it, but sometimes it drove me crazy. Who am I kidding? It drove me crazy a lot. As you can see from all the pictures, Dave's trademark was giving everyone the bird. If you got the double bird, it was game on. Dave and my daughter Carly spent a lot of time making fun of me, bonding over music, aliens, conspiracy theories, so much more. She has so many priceless videos of him that he hated her filming, but now they are such a treasure. I know they have their rough patches, but Dave cared about her, and she misses him very much. We also shared many pets. When we first met, I had a cat that didn't like me, but he loved Dave. I got Carly a ferret for Christmas that year, and he helped take care of that damn animal. Then we got Bella, a big goofy bulldog. Carly, Dave, and I drove out to a town outside of Pittsburgh thinking it was going to be a farm. It was a row home with cages in the basement. It was horrifying. The puppy pooped the entire way home. He was not happy, but he loved that damn dog. Taught her how to swim, played with her, walked her. In the end, he was there with us as we put her to sleep, and he got me through. "No more dogs," he said. "I'm not taking care of any more animals." Then along came Daisy, whose name got changed to Lucy, short for Lucifer, within a week. He did nothing but complain about that dog, but he adored her. She would sit with him by the fire, chew sticks, bark at him for yelling at the TV, for football, and sleep with him in the penthouse. When Lucy ate squeakers from a toy that got lodged in her stomach and required life-saving surgery, he was heartbroken. He went to see her at the vet and took her favorite blanket and pillows so she wouldn't be so upset. She still looks for the papa, and it breaks my heart. Dave had many nicknames. 3D, Super Dave, Big Dave, Zippy, Schneider, given to him by my best friend Dawn, who visited from Wisconsin this summer. Steve would call him my little buddy all the time. That made him crazy. Also, another way to make him nuts was to call him David. Only his family and Steve got away with that. But in the end, the nickname that stuck was Lufa. Long story short, it started out with Howard Stern's Lufa and morphed from there. People would always yell when they came over and I'd yell out, "Lufa!" They got a kick out of that. One of my favorite ways to torture Dave was to make him listen to my music because I had to endure his so much. All he had to do was mention the Hammer song, Peter, Paul, Mary's If I Had a Hammer. He would cringe. Many nights, Steve and Dave would listen to me sing these lyrics. I mentioned this here because it was a surefire way to make him laugh and shake his head. No, not the Hammer song! I hope he's up there right now having a laugh about it. Last time we hung out in the garage, it was Friday before he died. Lisa, Janet, and I went to a cake decorating class, which of course Dave thought was hysterical. When I got home, we hung out, we listened to music, laughed. We talked a lot that night about my dad, our upcoming vacation to the beach. He made fun of me a lot that night. Listening to all our old favorites, I got sappy as I always do and shed some tears. I did get to tell him how and why the songs meant what they did. I was so happy that we had that night together. The hardest part of writing this is the ending, because when it's over, I have to start moving on, and that's not something I want to do. I want to turn back the clock. I want to ring that bell one more time. I want to hear footsteps in the penthouse. I want to look into those blue eyes and talk for hours. I want to fight about cutting the grasses down or how we didn't speak female. That's not meant to be. So, if you're lucky enough to have real friends in your life, I mean the ones who know the real you and still love you anyway, hug them. Tell them how you feel. Take pictures. Spend time together. Tomorrow might be too late. I'll be hosting a celebration of life for Dave this summer so we can all raise a glass, listen to music, and tell stories. That's what he would have wanted. Once everything is finalized, I'll make sure everyone is invited. We will gather and celebrate. My daughter Carly found these blind melon lyrics from a song called I Wonder. I'd like to end with them. Hey, I'd like to daze away to a place no one has known, in a state of mind I could call mine, that only I could own, where I can hum a tune anytime I choose, and there's no such thing as time, where I feel no pain, just calm and sane. What a place for one to find. Rest in peace, Luther. It's not goodbye. It's until we meet again. Okay.